But we're going to switch gears entirely, and we're going to talk to our guest, GoodLawgic here, who has been reporting from the Diddy trial. Do I have you here?
Yes. Hello.
Hi. Can we turn that up?
Yep.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Glad to have you on.
Great.
Great. So I watched some of your video yesterday, and I admit that I have been following along at this Diddy trial just to see what kind of crazy lifestyle choices have been made by our top celebrities. Yesterday, I saw a story that apparently Diddy had Obama-shaped ecstasy pills. Did that?
Yeah. Well, yesterday was kind of a bombshell in the sense that Dr. Dawn Hughes, she's the psychologist who testified on behalf of Amber Heard in the Depp v. Heard trial. She took the stand to give a lecture to the jury about what should be expected from someone who's been a long-time sufferer of domestic violence, and specifically talking about how they end up coping with it, with what issue, who they end up disclosing it to, and why they stay with them, as well as how it affects their memory. Those are the 4 areas that she really focused on. And the cross-examination was fire. I should mention that this morning, and I can talk about that with you. I can also talk to you about how this morning Kid Cudi came in and testified.
Let's hear about Kid Cudi.
Tell me which one you'd rather me start with, and I'll go there.
I'd love to hear about the Kid Cudi thing.
Okay, so for those of your viewers who may not be following up with exactly what this trial is about and the charges here, so there's a RICO charge and 2 sex trafficking charges, and one of those sex trafficking charges relates to a model singer named Cassie Ventura. The state explains, and Cassie's testified, she spent 4 days on the stand, saying how she started her relationship with Diddy after she was already a model and had 1 hit song, and he signed her to a 10-album deal. And quickly thereafter, that was in 2007, and quickly thereafter they developed a personal relationship, and she fell very hard for Diddy. Diddy seemed to work very hard to get her attention, and in 2000, and near the end of 2007, they started dating, an on and off relationship for 11 years, and which ends in 2018. And then and a year into it or thereabouts, he introduces her to what he would call freak-offs. Now, freak-offs.
This is these parties that we've been hearing about, these like massive orgy parties.
No, it's not. That's what you need to. That's what your audience should be aware of. While we've all been referring to in the media for the last year since this story broke as freak-offs as being the wild party. It's really the way they're using in this trial, and this is something people have issue with, is that they're calling freak-offs when Diddy would have these marathon sex sessions where he would play voyeur and hire an escort, or sometimes multiple escorts, to basically engage with Cassie, putting oil on each other and engaging in long sex marathons while he would watch and pleasure himself. Okay. And they would have multiple sessions, which would last 9 hours, days, some of them.
So
this described the short one as being 9 hours.
This is like why they had the ecstasy, probably.
I'm sorry?
This is probably why they had the ecstasy.
Yeah, they had ecstasy. She testified that she took ketamine because she wanted to dissociate from it and just leave her body for it. And at a certain point in time during the relationship, he stopped her from taking ketamine because it was bothering him that she's not going to remember them. He wanted these incidents to last with her forever. She described a great deal of abuse where he would pull her by the hair, punch her in the face. We've seen pictures of her with like a golf ball size knots, like by her eyeball, and cuts. There's a famous video of her being dragged around by the Intercontinental Hotel.
Is that the CNN tape? Is that the tape that was that surveillance video by the elevators?
Yes. Yeah, that was aired on day 1. Before Cassie even testified. And many people have seen that already. And also that he was blackmailing her or extorting her, in the sense that she told over a story how when she was flying back from Cannes to New York and they had gotten in a fight because Diddy thought that she had stolen his drugs, that she tried moving seats and he followed after her, opened up his laptop.
Diddy thought that she stole his drugs?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You said Diddy thought she stole his drugs?
Yes. Diddy accused her of stealing his drugs. They were on a boat in France, and they were supposed to be going to like a movie, Cannes Film Festival type of thing. And he threw her off the boat, and later they had a premiere together, and she's brooding, and he's angry, and he's digging his hands into her thigh where she's wearing a beaded dress he's trying to like punish her. And on the flight home the next day, even though she tried moving away from him, he follows after her, opens up his laptop, and starts playing one of the freak-off sessions that he recorded of her performing there, and telling her that if she doesn't do what he wants, that he's going to release this to the public.
Is the allegation that he was taking these videos the whole time in order to blackmail her?
Well,
or did it just like...
I mean, there's no way to know whether it's for his own gratification or she said she hated there being videos and would try to delete them whenever she could, and that she thought it was a deleted video, and that she spent 5 hours with him playing it right there on a commercial plane, and him telling her that it's going to be released if he gets too upset with her. And so what does she do that night? She goes and does a freak off. So that's at least one incident where the state can point to the coercion that she faced. But a lot of her testimony was very conflicting, in that she seems to really love him to some degree even today. I mean, when she was asked about that very question on the stand, she said, I love the time I spent with him, but she has very strong feelings, and that's why Dr. Dawn Hughes was brought in yesterday to try and establish that that's a common thing with the people who suffer from domestic violence.
Oh, for sure.
That they're continually looking to return to the honeymoon phase and doing whatever they can to please their partner, A, to avoid the abuse, and B, to try and try and recapture the good moments. And that there will be a lot of good moments, and she described those as being controlling as well. That in order to, it's a way that an abuser would use the carrot and the stick. But on cross-examination yesterday, Dr. Dawn Hughes was facing a firestorm, because she had talked about the coping methods one of the coping methods for dealing with the abuse and who they'll confide in is that they can go to someone. They can go to formal therapy versus informal. And she said formal therapy is you go to police or a healthcare worker. Informal is when you talk to friends or family. So in cross-examination, Agniflio says to her, so you're talking about formal and informal. How would you classify when one of the first people you talk to is a civil attorney? And she's like got all flustered. He's like, people go to a civil attorney for money, right? I mean, is that a form of counseling when they go talk to a civil attorney?
So they're trying to discredit. They're just trying to discredit her testimony.
He was lacing into her and saying how she's testified 65 times, and every time it's always a battered woman. Every single time, never arguing for the defense, and always screaming for the battered woman. Well, on the redirect. So Maureen Comey was handling the redirect, and she said, you've testified for the defense, haven't you? And she said, yes, many times. In fact, you testified on behalf. You were retained by one of the defense attorneys who are sitting in this room right now. And she said yes. And I'm in a jury viewing room the whole time. We're like, oh my God, like it's audible, like you're in a movie theater. And then on recross.
So the jury's not in the room. The jury's not in the courtroom. They're in a separate.
Not the room that I'm watching. The room that I'm watching, the jury room where the courtroom where Diddy is. Everyone keeps a poker face.
Right.
We're much freer when you have 50 journalists sitting in a viewing room for people to react. It's relatively quiet. It's like a movie theater. For a big moment there'll be an oh, but otherwise it's very quiet. But on redirect, so Agniflio said, so you were hired by Brian Steele, which is one of the defense attorneys. You retained for him. Wasn't that case a case where he was representing a defendant who was accused by the state as a woman accused of shooting her husband? Yeah, so that was also with domestic violence, where you were saying that, and the point being, you're always about domestic violence. You say every woman is a victim of domestic violence. And then he's like, and he didn't end up putting you on the stand, did he? No. So he looked at what you had to say, Brian Steele looked at what you had to say, and said, "I'm not interested in this."
Mm-hmm.
It was like one-liner after another. It was so intense. And then today we got Kid Cudi, which just made it like even better.
We just have about 1 or 2 minutes left. Can you give us a little rundown on the Kid Cudi
Yeah.
thing?
So Kid Cudi had dated Cassie for a year. When Diddy found out about it, he was in a freak off and went through her phone, and he saw that there was.
He found out about it while he was watching his girlfriend have sex with someone else?
Yes, he's looking through her phone. This is according to Cassie. Mm-hmm. He's looking through her phone, and he sees a text from Kid Cudi saying, "Bring your toiletries to my house." And then according to Cassie, he picked up a wine bottle opener and lunged at her, chasing her around, and she flees the freak off because he was so outraged. Now, she claimed that she was on a break in their relationship, and but
while she was having sex with someone else so he could watch?
She was asked about that on cross, and she's like, and when they asked about that on cross, there was a mistake by the defense because they were like, "Why would you be on a freak off when you're on a break?" She goes, "By that point, it was my job," which was like
it was her job. Like she was getting paid to do this.
For defense is trying to say she's doing it voluntarily. They really walked into a trap there.
Yeah, for sure.
I got to share with you a couple just before we run out of time. So Kid Cudi ends up, she calls Kid Cudi and they end up fleeing, and she ends up breaking up with Kid Cudi, and Diddy's threatening to kill both of them and that he's going to blow up Kid Cudi's car. And sure enough, Kid Cudi's car ends up getting blown up. They have this meeting, and the day after his car it gets a Molotov cocktail, and we saw pictures of that. Mm-hmm. But they had this meeting. He's like, so we go to this. I come to the Soho house, which is where we had this meeting. And when we're there at the Soho house, I walk in, and Diddy's standing there, and there's this wall of windows overlooking Beverly Hills, and he's looking out the windows with his back to me, and his hands clasped behind his back like he's like a Marvel supervillain,
or like a mobster.
And he looks so calm the entire time, and that when they came out, and he turns around, and we start having conversation, and he's like, "You knew she was my girl," and he's very calm. He's like, we were homies, and you knew she was my girl, and we agreed to just put it in the past. And Cassie showed up, and he was very confused and disappointed that he saw that Cassie just went right back to him because he spent a year with her, and that he said, I was very hurt, and he ended up admitting to defense. To their credit, he admitted to defense that Cassie played him and Diddy, that Cassie was playing both of them, and that he assumed that she would never go back to him, and that she was playing both of them. So we've got a real soap opera going on here, the Diddy trial.
How many weeks are left? Like 6 weeks left, or 2? I mean, not 2. I think they said it was going to be an 8-week trial. So how many?
Yeah, they're hoping it'll end by July 4th. We're on day 9, the second week of the trial.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
Right. So my stage name, I'm Joe Neeran. People know me as GoodLawgic, which is LAWGIC. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Rumble. I'm covering this every day. I do a recap for what happened in the morning, the afternoon, and at night I go through a much more detailed breakdown as to what we saw that day. Okay, and you can also find me on X at @TheFollowingPro. So everywhere you look for me, you can just look GoodLawgic. You'll find me there. LAWGIC, because I'm an attorney. So
okay, great. There you go. It's clever. Thank you so much, Joe. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.